Hereby call the Iberia Parish Council Wednesday, May 8th meeting to order. It's now 6 o'clock. Mr. Eugene's going to lead us in the prayer.
Please all rise. Lord, guide us tonight to do your good work. We ask you to bless our communities and all the communities in Iberia Parish. As we focus on the future of Iberia Parish, we ask you to open our minds to all the possibilities to make our parish strong, not to focus on just my needs, but the needs of the whole parish. Thank you for all you have given us, in good times and in the bad. Guide us to grow as a community for the future of our children and grandchildren. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Broussard, the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready? Roll call.
Tommy Pollard. Michael Landry.
Here.
Tommy Landry.
Here.
Lloyd Brown. Warren Goshasang. Natalie Broussard. Paul Landry.
Here.
Ricky Gonsalves. Joe Dugas.
Here.
Eugene Olivier.
Here.
Brian Napier.
Here.
Berwick Francis.
Here.
Marty Trahan.
Here.
Chad Matchaman.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum, so now we'll start. I need a motion and a second to go into public comments. I have a motion by Mr. Tommy Pollard and a second by Mr. Olivier. Roll call. Okay, we're in public comments. Item number 1, comments from the general public on non-agenda items. A, Ms. Christy Blanchard, Register of Voters, to address the council to provide information on the registrar's office.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I just wanted to bring y'all up to date on a few things. I just completed our 2 spring elections with no problems at all. Everything ran smooth. We had the the mayor's election and alderman race, and we just finished Saturday the school board tax renewal and the Tesh Vermilion freshwater tax renewal. So everything went fine. Everything was smooth. Today we finished giving credit. Everything reconciled perfect to a T. So just to remind y'all, in the fall is the big major gubernatorial race from governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, treasurer, commissioner of ag, the Bessie board seat, state senate, state rep, sheriff, clerk of court, assessor, coroner, parish president, and councilman. This could be a big ballot. So just I wanted to announce all of those because a lot of people will come in to vote in May for the sheriff or for something else. So I wanted to name them all so people will know that whoever qualifies that could possibly be on the ballot. So with that being said, voter education, it's a continuing process in our office. I want to invite all of you to come by. The forms that you have, if you do any voter registration forms you would have, they're no longer good due to the main thing on that form was the felons. The verbiage at the bottom when you sign, that changed. So voter education is not until September, but I'd like for all of y'all to come by, get some new forms, or I can put them in y'all mailboxes if you'd like them. Of course, all those forms are on the website, the Secretary of State website, if you would need them. But the forms are new. We do accept the old one too, but just because of the verbiage at the bottom. The next thing I want to talk to you about is Canvas. That is where the post office verifies all the addresses that we have in our system with the state. May 18th, that'll start, and then we'll start the process of doing our reports and working all our addresses, making corrections, and sending out new ID cards to the people. My computer equipment, just want to let y'all know my office will need to be up to date with new computers by January of 2020. So I plan on requesting 4 new computers from my budget for 2020. I am in the process of working on, with Mr. Andy and the clerk of court's office on the intergovernment agreement. The clerk's office was getting rid of some monitors, so I asked if I could maybe get those to help with my computer expenses that I'm needing to get. So I am aware that in the past, the state used to provide computers to my office, but with budget cuts throughout the state, they don't do it anymore. So with that being said, just want y'all to know, like my first year's budget, if y'all look at it, I didn't spend a lot. I'm a very conservative person, and I will continue to do that. So the next thing, redistricting, I'm not sure. I think Brenda may have put this in your packet, the list of the redistrict timeline. I just want y'all to be aware of the dates so that y'all can, if y'all need and want to start considering, if you feel like you need to make changes to the precincts, okay? The precinct lines freeze at the end of this year, December 31st. All y'all precinct lines will be frozen until after the census. Census will start 2020, and then things will start rolling. So then after that, you know, once the census, then you'll have that possible reapportionment could start. You would start meeting with the demographers. If you would have any questions before then, and you need to meet with either the parish, the demographer that y'all have used in the past, or if y'all need to talk to the state demographer, which is Bill Blair, and he's the director for the state through the legislation. So I have his contact. It was on the form that I sent. So I think all the precincts, by looking at the numbers, everything looks okay, but I know when they do the census, the lines, you know, I'm sure some of the districts will have to be moved. The lines will have to be moved. So I'm ready to work with whoever. If you have questions, just come by. The other thing, this is kind of exciting for Iberia Parish. Iberia Parish we're going to host the Louisiana Register of Voters annual seminar next year. So it will be held in January, the end of January. The Ramada Inn is going to be the place. So there'll be about 250 people coming to Iberia Parish. And hopefully they'll stay extra night. So I'm excited about that. We have some co-hosts, St. Martin, St. Mary, and Vermilion Parish, that's going to help us with that. So when it gets closer to that date, I may be contacting a few of y'all to come and speak and come visit some of our other registrars throughout the state. The other thing I wanted to do is I'd like to thank Mr. Eugene Olivier for taking time out of his busy schedule to get a framed photo of Miss Adams to be placed in my office alongside the past registrars who are now gone or have retired. So Eugene came, he did a little dedication to Miss Adams along with Larry Richard and Mike Thibodeau and my staff. So I want to thank you for doing that, Eugene. And also that's pretty much all. I'd like to open the floor if y'all have any questions for me on anything.
Mr. Richard?
The only thing I will have is what change is said at the bottom of the voter registration form?
It's the verbiage when you sign, when you swear that you're saying everything's true and correct by the felons, that you hadn't been incarcerated in the last 5 years.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank
It's the verbiage on that, so. And the other thing is I'd like to wish luck to all the baseball teams traveling today, tomorrow, this week, and especially to Laurelville. And I think Catholic High is playing 4:30 and 5 today. So I'd like to wish luck to all of them. And if you don't have any other questions for me, just want to thank y'all again for allowing me to be your registrar for the parish. Okay?
Thank you, Christy. We
Okay.
really appreciate that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, moving on to item number 2, comments from the general public on agenda items. A, persons being considered for appointment to parish boards, commissions to address the council. Is Mr. Clarence Barido here?
Said that you can just re-advertise because
Okay.
he's not in.
Okay, we can handle that. And then with Mr. Chris Ditch, Allison Estes, or Jonathan Peel here? Okay. Would y'all want to speak right now for the Acadiana Fairgrounds appointment? Okay, just get up to the podium and state your name.
I'm Allison Estes, obviously.
And I'm Chris Ditch.
I'm Jonathan Peel.
Just tell us a little something about you and,
My name's Jonathan Peel. I retired. I joined the Marine Corps in '99. Retired in 2015. As of right now, I'm a farrier, so I work, train, shoe, assist with horses on a daily basis. You know, and that's it.
okay.
And I'm Chris Ditch. I'm from here in New Iberia. Both my kids are involved in horses. They participate in the 4-H as far as the horse shows and the bow racing. We do a lot here at the Sugar Arena, Crowley, New Roads, and different arenas in the area. And I really care about the future of the Sugar Arena, and I would appreciate, y'all vote, because I think we can do good with the arena and make good things happen with it. Thank you.
Same thing. I have two daughters that are very involved with 4-H and riding. And lately, it seems like we're going to Crowley an awful lot. So
We
we'd
don't-
like to see the
Yeah,
Sugar
we
Arena.
we don't want that. We don't want
No.
that.
Right.
We'd like to see them succeed.
Sure. Okay, but I'm not exactly sure what date it is that the voting will be, but if y'all just watch the agendas and come on, and we'll try to fill some openings.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Item number 3, comments from the general public for public hearing on the adoption of 2019 millages. I don't have any cords up here, so we'll move on. I need a motion, a second, to go back into regular session. I have a motion by Mr. Brown, a second by Mr. Pollard. Roll call. Joe. Berwick. Okay, we're now back in regular session. Reports, finance, and administration action. Item number 1, balance sheet for March 2019 is on request. The budget report for March 2019 on request. Reports, parish and governmental agencies, monthly building report dated April 2019 was in your packet. Public Works reports, number 1, Public Works Department report for closed work orders dated April 15th to 19th and 22nd to 26th of 2019 was in your packet. Special business, there's none. Council member announcements. Mr. Gutchison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to send out a big appreciation to the teachers and nurses across the parish, as it is a Teacher and Nurse Appreciation Week. So I'd like to thank them for a job well done, and thank Mr. Reshort and the administration on the Household Waste Day. This, was it 2 Saturdays ago that we did it? It was a big success. A lot of people came out. I've received several phone calls that we probably should do it twice a year, so if you can keep that into consideration. And I'll be short, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Mr. Olivier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On Wednesday, May the 1st through the 4th, I attended the NAPCO 35th Economic Development Conference in Wayne County, Michigan, at my own expense, by the way. The meeting began with a community town hall meeting on technology and the future of work. Several panelists throughout the 4 days conference spoke to us on topics such as census matters, on-ground communication, voting rights, technology, safe drinking water, government efficiency related to economics related to in-house versus outsourcing. Also, other topics on economic of medical cannabis, opportunity zones, enterprise zones, criminal justice and bail reform, jail diversion, women's health, charter schools and online schools, and many other roundtable discussions. We also had the opportunity to meet with 4 2020 presidential candidates, Senator Cory Booker, Senator Amy Koshbash, how you pronounce that last name? Okay. Business entrepreneur Andrew Yang, Mayor Wayne Messam, all presidential candidates. And we also had a special reception with accomplished film and television stage actor Hill Harper. The conference was a great educational experience for me. I hope to share some of the information that I learned with other council members in the near future. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Ms. Napier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to give an update. If anybody travels Highway 87 going through Generate, the old Generate Road, you well aware of that road is closed and has been closed for, I don't know, probably a couple, 2-3 months. And I finally got to talk to Mr. Bill Oliver with DOTD today. And what happened was that culvert collapsed, the road collapsed, and he told me they were having the reason why it's taken so long, they had there's a city of Generate water line there that's been the problem. Some utilities need to be moved, and the problem was with Generate in the financial situation they in now, don't have the money to move it, and I think that's what has taken so long to get to a point where they're ready to move. But the timeline from what he told me today was that sometimes in July, the project should start after they do all the things they have to do, and it should be a 6 to 8 week project, which he said probably depending on whether that road should reopen in September. So I know nothing has been said. I haven't heard anything. I don't know about Mr. Richard if I'm correct or not, but that's what he told me. So I just wanted to kind of let the public know, and maybe the newspaper will put it also that that road will be closed another several months, and hopefully in September it'll reopen. So just an update. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dugan?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to kind of reiterate what Ms. Blanchard said, that Louisville High School baseball and Catholic High baseball are both playing semifinals right now in Sulphur in their respective classifications, and congratulate both of them. Thank you.
Okay, seeing nothing else, I'll report to y'all. If y'all remember, we passed a resolution when we're going through the budget process. We have a process called agreed upon procedures, where we pick one board or commission and we do a thorough audit of everything. The first board or commission that was picked was the airport board, and everything came back good. There's a couple tweakings of things just to have the stuff done right, and a couple maybe misconceptions, and but it came out good. Kim, you have any comments?
Just that we've not really been able to kind of put those remediations in effect because there's no director,
Right.
no administrative people, but soon.
Sure, yeah, but we've identified anything that we want to clean up and everything. So, with the budget going on, we will pick another board or commission soon, and we'll do the same process, on and on. The hospital, we had Senate Bill 92 that Fred Mills was pushing through, and as most of y'all know, I tried to tell y'all that it was pulled back, and they had a couple individuals that wanted to talk to Fred, and they had the meeting, and everything was good. Last Thursday, I went to the committee meeting and with Andy Shealy and Mr. Guy Cormier, and it passed favorably. Everybody's happy, so it's going to move on to the Senate committee and Senate, and then to the House committee, and to the House too also. So everything looks good. That should all keep going. Well, I told y'all we were going to create a committee of 9 members, and Mr. Andy Shealy, a liaison committee that is going to review any issues and items that come up about the hospital and things like that. We've even suggested when we go on to, if Senator Mills received a letter from somebody asking some questions, I called him and asked him just to send the letter back to the liaison committee. So we'll take care of any issues down here, that need to be taken care of on hospital issues. So that's about on an update on those things. But if no other questions, we'll move on. Okay, next item up is parish president announcements. Mr. Richard.
Okay, public works report for the last 2 weeks. We did some culvert cleanings in District 3, District 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 13, and 14. We picked up debris in various districts. We did some field drainage work in District 14, roadside drainage work in District 7, 9, 12, 13, and 14. Grading roads in District 2, 5, and 13. We did some patching in District 3, District 6, 8, 9, 10, 12 and 13. Field ditch side boom in District 9 and 10. And we did some shoulder work in District 6. Litter abatement for April the 27th. We picked up 33 bags of trash and 10 yards of debris. And that was accomplished on Lewis Street from Highway 90. Household Waste Day, we had approximately 170 vehicles participating. We took over 200 batteries, a ton of electronics, literally 1 ton, a little bit more than a ton of electronics, and 140 gallons of paint. We're going to do something right now. I'm going to ask Mr. Dean Watney and his wife to come up in reference to mental health. They're going to say a few words, and before you even get started, I want to tell you how much I appreciate what you guys do. Once they finish their speech or their presentation, I'm going to give Natalie the proclamation, and Natalie, I would like you to read the proclamation. Then once you do that, we're going to get up and take pictures, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to be with you here again. We miss you guys all so much that we want to come back every year in May to talk about the Mental Health Month. And it's so important to have this little time in the proclamation, which we appreciate you doing, to give the little time and thought to letting the public know that it's Mental Health Month, and that we need to keep the conversation of mental health going in this community. And we certainly want to thank you all for the position that's being funded at the health unit. I know that the agreements have all been signed and are in place, and so that position ought to be starting its work very, very shortly, and is much needed in this community. And it's a good cooperation between you, the state health department, and the Iberia Medical Center. Is just a wonderful example of what we can do in this community when we all kind of pull together. So we certainly appreciate your part in that. There's a lot of things that are happening in mental health in this community. We're striving to keep a couple of things going. Catherine can talk about the programs that we have coming up for this month, and kind of what we've been doing since the last time we visited with you all.
And I want to echo Dean's appreciation to all of you for supporting this important work and this important issue. We know that mental illness touches everyone in some way. There's no socioeconomic status that goes untouched, but we do appreciate what you're doing, what your recognition of how important this is to address. And one way we've been addressing the issue is by having a monthly family support group. We hold that at Iberia Medical North Campus, and it's for family members who are impacted by a friend or a loved one who has a mental illness. It's free, open to the public. It's facilitated by a very experienced, licensed clinical mental health social worker. So we feel that that's a really good thing that we've been able to provide. And then we also have public programs, and we have one coming up in May. On May 23rd, again, it'll be at 6 p.m. at Iberia Medical Center North Campus. You all have a flyer in front of you that talks about the program, and we welcome your distribution of the flyer at your workplace, in the community, wherever you think it may be beneficial. It should be a very informative program. The speaker is Cindy Hayes. She's also a licensed clinical mental health social worker, and she will be talking about the effects of trauma and adverse childhood experiences, and how those experiences can impact a person possibly for the rest of their life. So it should be a very good program, and we're just trying to get the word out to the community so they could come and be educated on those type of issues. So thank you again for your support and all you're doing for mental health.
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all very much.
And before I read the proclamation, I just want to thank both of you for everything that y'all are doing to address mental health in our community. Obviously, in my line of work, I see the effects of mental health issues and how it affects the families and the long-term effects. And this is an area that is not being addressed sufficient. So all of y'all's efforts do not go unnoticed, and they're very much appreciated. So thank y'all for what y'all are doing too. All right, proclamation, Mental Health Month 2019, Fitness for Mind for Body. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas all Americans experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives, and whereas prevention is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental health conditions, and whereas there's a strong research that diet, exercise, sleep, and stress management can help all Americans protect their health and well-being, and whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent in our nation, and whereas with effective treatment, those individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead full, productive lives, and whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizens share the burden of mental health problems and has a responsibility to promote mental health wellness and support prevention efforts. Therefore, I, M. Larry Reshore, do hereby proclaim May 2019 as Mental Health Month in Iberia Parish, Louisiana. As the Iberia Parish President, I also call upon the citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Iberia Parish to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions before stage 4. Signed by M. Larry Reshore, Parish President.
And the reason I had Natalie read it is because this is a big deal. This is not about me. This is all of the council as we work together to try to do what's right in Iberia Parish for mental health. So at this time, I'd like to take pictures. And if any council members want to gather, we can all do it together. Just stand right here and take pictures.
Should we all stand in behind you? Yeah, stand just.
Nobody on this side want to come? For you. Anyone else?
We're good. Okay.
There you go.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. It's important to publicize this.
If you wanted to say,
Pew. Okay. To finish up the parish president's announcements, a while back I got with you guys and I told you I was going to come up with a 5-year plan for coastal protection in the parish. At this particular time, I'm going to get Mike Pugh, who is an engineer who's been working with CPRA, also worked with our levee district, and let him go over a presentation right quick like on what we're going to be looking at moving forward. As you are aware, we're starting to receive dollars from Go Mesa now, and we need to try to figure out how to better protect Iberia Parish as far as our water, drainage, and coastal, with the coastal concerns that we have. Mike?
So, thank you. I'm Mike Pugh with Royal Engineering. I was contacted, I don't know, 6 months ago about Ben Longley, who was the, I guess, former chairman of the levee district. I've been working with Ben in the levee district for 10 years now and with CPRA on planning, not really implementing, but planning coastal protection, water management, and restoration projects in the parish. And Ben contacted me and President Reshore, and we met, and the genesis of the conversation was, in the absence of a dedicated local tax, what can we do? What funding is out there? What projects could we do that could impact the parish? We could afford to do it. How can we partner with CPRA? And we began that conversation, and over the period of 6 months, several meetings internally, and the administration has met directly with CPRA. We've developed an implementation plan that lays out with the funding stream available, and this presentation is going to be germane just to Go Mesa dollars, and I'll explain all that as I get into it. What projects can be implemented, the benefits of those projects, what they cost, and the potential to leverage those dollars to increase the funding by partnering with CPRA. The presentation is broken down into 4 segments. Funding, what's the money? What color is it? What projects fit it? How much of it is there and how much more is to come? Projects, what projects meet the criteria? How much do they cost and how long is it going to take to build them? So the funding, I mentioned it's going to be funded by Go Mesa dollars, and I'll walk through it real quickly. Go Mesa is an acronym for Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act. It was passed in 2006 by Congress, and it was a rededication of existing taxes on outer continental shelf oil leases. Somewhere in the 50s, 60s, or 70s, Louisiana made a decision not to participate in those taxes, but got a benefit for something else. The rest of the country has participated fully, and the participation rate is 37.5% for countries around America. The Go Mesa legislation reenacted Louisiana's participation along with the Gulf states, but not at the full 37.5%. And it was broken down into 2 phases. The taxes started getting collected on new leases only, starting in lease sales, I think in 2008 or 9. It was phase 1, it was a lower cap on the total funding. And in 2017, went into phase B, the cap was almost 10 times as much. It's $500 million now, and it's spread out between the 5 Gulf states, and in particular in Louisiana. The state gets a large chunk of it that goes to CPRA, and the remainder gets distributed to the coastal parishes based on a formula. And that funding is, unless Congress changed the law, it's perpetual. As long as we're leasing oil and gas properties in the Gulf of Mexico, this revenue will continue to come. Because it's based on lease sales, it's hard to project it. And I know you got, I see Jason over there from a bonding perspective. There's been conversations on this revenue stream for 10 years on can you bond it, how can you bond it, because it's not predictive. They recently have figured out a way to bond it, and some parishes are walking down that road, and we'll get into that, and I heard some questions earlier about that. There's always the option to do it. Typically bonds like this, and I'm not a bonding attorney, are issued on a 20-year cycle. But this presentation and in the direction President Reshaw wanted to go was to look at what we can do now with the money we have, knowing that the option to bond is always available. Uses, and this is written directly into the legislation, but I'm highlighting it here. This money can be used on projects that serve as coastal protection, conservation, restoration, hurricane protection, or infrastructure that is directly impacted by coastal wetlands loss. This is a table that shows Iberia Parish's deposits over the past 10 years. And you can see from 2017 to 18, the amount has increased significantly. And that's where that Phase A and Phase B threshold line is. The original projections for Phase B back in 2013-14 were upwards of $1.7, $1.8 million. Oil and gas industry hasn't been doing so good the last few years, so leases aren't as aggressive. Had some conversations with CPRA early this week on what should we look at as conservatively projected forward. They expect the money that they get from the feds and that's distributed to the parishes to increase over the next few years. But this is currently what the parish has in the bank, roughly $2 million. That $994,000 check came, Scott, I think last week?
Last week. Week before last.
Comes every April. And this is just a summary of the Phase A to Phase B, the $2 million that's in the bank, and the projections of $1.25 million a year forever, hopefully. Projects. These criteria are directly pulled from the Go Mesa legislation, but also pulled from CPRA's doctrine in their master plan, and President Reshaw and his staff added some additional points that they wanted us to use as we tried to identify what projects could fit this.
First and foremost, it's a project that has to be included in CPRA's coastal master plan. Good news is the entire flood protection system in Iberia Parish is part of the coastal master plan, which is in Iberia Parish's coastal master plan that the levy district did in 2014. Has to meet the Go Mesa funding regulations. We wanted to pick projects that provide independent utility, and it's kind of an engineering word, but I'll explain it. The system across Iberia Parish is 26 miles. It's levees, it's pumps, it's floodgates, it's flood walls, and it's water control structures. If you built a levee, let's just say between Commercial Canal and the Delcom Canal, and you said, we're gonna go build a stretch of levee, a 5-mile stretch of levee, and you built that levee and you built it to spec. That levee doesn't provide you utility because in the event of a hurricane or a flood, all it's doing is pushing the water to the other side and making the flooding worse on either side. Utility is where you can build a project within a system and build one component of it, and that one project will provide direct benefits and it won't have any adverse impacts to the surrounding area. So we had to pick projects because the funds are limited that have utility. Tried to pick projects that have minimum maintenance requirements because you don't want to go build a project like a pumping station. You don't have enough money to maintain it, and 5 years from now your pump's all froze up, the diesel's got algae in it, and it doesn't work. And then we wanted projects that have direct, measurable, and sustainable benefits to the areas that they are constructed in. And the biggest piece is there's a lot of work going on right now in Iberia Parish with canal enhancements and cleaning, and we wanted to select projects that dovetail nicely with those efforts so you got maximum impact to certain areas. So this is a map. This is directly pulled from CPRA's master plan. This is the flood protection alignment in Iberia Parish, working from west to east, from the Delcom Canal all the way to the Delahousie Canal. And it's a series of pumping stations, drainage structures, navigation gates, and highway gates. The 3 projects that we selected are all very similar, all water control structures. And the first one is on People's Coulee. There's been, and I think everybody knows here, flooding related to People's Coulee over the last 10 years, particularly in the Jefferson Terrace by New Iberia Senior High. And I'll go into detail to explain the projects. The second one is Jefferson Canal. From a flooding perspective, and this parish getting impacted by sea level rise and rising tides, the west side of the parish, which is on the other side of Commercial Canal, is actually at greater risk. The ball fields in Delcom are flooded in a high tide. Ben and I have met with a dozen farmers over the last 10 years that there's certain areas of their cane land that they have trouble harvesting their crop because they get salt water if there's a south wind for 5 or 6 days. So Jefferson Canal was selected because there's a lot of impact that it relieves there. And the last one would be Segura Road East, which is also on the west segment. Cost. What do these projects cost? Like I said, they're all similar in size, scope, and scale. And the numbers in here are planning level numbers. No engineering has been done yet. Everything's planning. CPRA has done a lot of planning and modeling. Levy District's done some of it, and it developed some cost parameters. These projects all fit within this range. And these are conservative numbers, but they're good budget numbers. They're all going to be roughly $240,000 in engineering, 1.6 in construction, for a total of 1.875 per project. I'm good. So this is the funding plan, and I'll walk you through it. It's run you from 2007 to 2018, that's your phase A money in one column, all the way to 23, which is the 5 years we're talking about. It's 3 rows. The top row is your deposits. That's the money that gets input. The cost per year is your expenditures, and the bottom line is your fund balance, essentially your balance in your checking book. The plan right now is to take the $2 million that's in the bank and begin design on the first 2 projects in 19. And you can see there'll be about $300,000 expended. Construction on the first 2 start at 2020, design on the third, construction on the first 2 finish and begins on the third one, all construction and closeout complete in 2022. And you see there's no expenditures in 2023, and the reason is your fund balance is getting down to $94,000 and you need a year to replenish it back up to cover maintenance requirements, to cover overruns, underruns, or to fund future projects. Delivery, what's this going to look like, how long it's going to take. So these are the 3 projects. laid out by year, by phase, and it's basically a snapshot of what I just showed you, just laid out differently. 19, you can see the design money on the first two being expended. In 2020, you can see construction starting on the first two, design on the third, and then 2021, you're wrapping up the first two. In 2022, you're finishing the third. From a schedule standpoint, I tried to make it graphically kind of show how you're following the fund balance. Blue is engineering, orange is construction, and green is closeout. When someone in my office did this for me, the first thing I said is, why is the blue so long? Well, all of these projects have to be permitted by the Army Corps of Engineers. Right now, the backlog, and we've got 15 permits in right now for different clients. They're turning permits within 6 to 9 months. We used to get permits turned in 90 days. There's a 6-month lag built into all the design phases to cover permitting. Now, they're all going to look exactly the same. They're all going to say the same thing pretty much. So the idea is you get into 2 and 3, you should better crash that schedule a good bit. And the reason there's a gap on Segura Road East is because if these projects follow the schedule, when you finish design and get your permit, you're going to have to wait till your fund balance gets backed up so you have enough money in the bank to actually go to bid and afford the project. That's right. A couple of points I wanted to make. We've been doing this kind of work for 15 years, and we've done a lot of work in other parishes. When we presented the levy district plan, I guess that was 4 or 5 years ago. One of the key components to remember is when you spend your money on master plan projects, you bring in CPRA and their dollars. They've already endorsed this plan, they've seen it, and they've already committed, at least verbally, to President Richard that they'd be willing to participate if this happens. In other words, we're telling you we're going to do this, well, you go do it. And if you do it, then we'll start paying for some of this. We put a similar plan in place for St. Bernard Parish in 2014. They had received $0 from CPRA the past 6 years. They took their money that they had, put together a plan, spent it on master plan projects, and advanced the projects they had. And as of today, as of 2 months ago when they had the State of the Parish address, they have over $400 million in projects going on, all funded by CPRA. And it sounds like a lot of money, but think of the scale of it. CPRA's budget a year is $1 billion, $1 billion a year, and that's funded by QIPR, CAP, the Deepwater Horizon funds, which are the NERD and the Clean Water Act funds. They're going to get it. They get a check every April, and they're going to get it for the next 15 years. So they got $15 billion worth of projects to build. Now they have a $50 billion plan, so they can only do a certain amount of it. They're going to spend their money in parishes that are doing this. If you say, okay, we got this Go Mesa money, or we got Restore money, or we have a dedicated coastal money, we're going to take it and we're going to go do some projects that are important to us, and they're good projects. And CPRA is going to say, that's great, it meets the regulations, but we're not participating. They're going to participate where people are building projects that's in their plan, and that's in their legislation. They can't partner with Iberia Parish on a ballpark. It's going to have to be one of these projects, and that's leveraging the dollars. Like I said, there's already been meetings with CPR leadership in Iberia, and it's been met with very positive response. And I think that's all I have. Y'all have any questions?
Natalie, do you want-
Well,
Let's see, Mr. Gashison?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the question I would have about the calculation of the distribution of the money, how is that determined between the parishes? Is it by population?
It's a straight
or-
formula. The state has it all built into a model, and it spits out the lease revenues per year, and the only thing that changes is the amount of lease revenues. So every year, the federal government conducts the leasing process in the Gulf of Mexico. They
Okay.
book those leases, they value those leases, and the next year, that money is distributed based on what those leases are valued at. Then that changes every year. History is a guide, but depending on what that dollar value is, if you told me that the lease revenue was going to be a certain number the next 5 years, I can tell you exactly what the parish was.
Got you. Okay, and I guess my next question would be with the AP, the Acadiana Planning Commission, with the tri-parish deal that we do in the draining analysis. How does Go Mesa money would fit into that? We can't use it for any of that?
No.
Is it?
no, that's two totally different things.
I understand that, but can the money be used,
Can the money from Go Mesa?
Go Mesa be used to help? Because I know we're gonna have to come up with that match issues with AP,
No.
so we can't use that at all.
That's not
Okay.
in our master plan, no.
Okay, Just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Trahan.
No, I appreciate y'all too, Ben especially, and y'all too, you too, Larry. But I know Ben, me and Ben been talking a lot longer than what y'all think. But putting this plan together, Larry, you as parish president, I'm totally behind y'all 1,000% to get this deal rolling. As a coastal district, I see a lot of flooding in my area, and I'm behind y'all. Whatever y'all need from the council or whatever, I'll be willing to sponsor.
Well,
Thank y'all very much.
Well, with what we're doing, like with Public Works in parish government, this is just the next common sense progression as far as I'm concerned. So we have the monies that's coming in. If you take a look at, well, you can't take a look at it, but you may have noticed that from 2009 all the way to 2017, we had only received, I don't know, maybe right at $100,000, Kim?
It was almost nothing.
And then in 2018, we received $871,000, and in 2019, we received $994,000. So now it's time to try to protect this parish, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
Okay, this is-
Okay,
Miss-
thank you.
Mr.
Thank you so
Napier.
much. Oh, you got a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, great presentation. Just I want to echo what Marty says, Larry, Ben. I mean, this is really good news, and that we are not just sitting, we are actually doing. If nothing else, we've learned a lesson where there was money and didn't go get it years ago. Now there's money there, and you're doing what you have to do, Mr. Richard, and bringing in the people that need to come in to, because it sounds like, Santa Claus is at the chimney there with a bunch of money, and we need to take it. So, Mike, thank you. I know y'all gonna like that one. Mike, thank you that was a great presentation, and I didn't know that all that money was available. I don't know if the rest of us knew, but great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mike, I guess my question is, we would use the Go Mesa to start all these projects. Now, if CPRA is going to match with us, would they come later and maybe say, here's some of your money back? Or would, at that time, they say, okay, we see you doing something, we want to be a
I'll give you a
game player.
hypothetical, but it's based on real life. So take project number one, which is People's Coulee. We begin design, start advancing it, get a permit, go to construction. Let's just say Jefferson Canal was advancing the design. President Richard goes up, he has a meeting with Chip Klein, says, look, I did what I said I was going to do. We're moving these projects forward. And they go through an annual plan process every year where they look at the master plan, they meet with parishes, and they select projects. That's how they do it. They would say, all right, well, why don't you let us pick up the construction of the second one? You take that $1.5 million that you were going to spend, drop it back down, select another project, and start designing that one.
Yeah.
Or they may say, you know what, you keep building those three. You got that covered. We want to go build the pumping station at Commercial Canal. We'll just take that one all the way.
Okay.
That's how it works.
For instance, in St. Bernard, it was one particular project, they were real focused, that parish was really focused on restoring a ridge and a marsh on its eastern flank in Breton Sound. They only had enough money to fund the design and to build one small segment of it. It was like $8 million. We began the design for them, had a coordination meeting with CPRA, and they said, stop. You just spent a little bit of money. We're going to go build it. And they're actually going to construction right now. And instead of building an $8 million project, they're building a $120 million project. And they're funding it all. This money is real. They have it. And they're spending it as fast as they can spend it. I mean, the governor's got his foot on their throat saying, get these projects and get them built. Because every day, you don't experience it as much here. Look, we have, as a parish, we have one of the lowest subsidence rates and one of the lowest erosion rates of the entire coast. You go just to the west of us in Rockefeller, it has the greatest erosion rate. You go to Lafourche and Terrebonne, and they're sinking out of sight. So you don't really see it here, but it would just take one storm. Take Rita and move it 60 miles to the east, and you got 3 foot of water in downtown New Iberia. So.
Okay, next up, we have Mr. Tommy Landry.
Mike, just curious, Terrebonne Parish, what was their contribution from this group? I know they've spent...
Terrebonne Parish, I actually saw a presentation by Reggie about 2 months ago. Terrebonne Parish has spent $286 million in local tax dollars in the past probably 20 years. And they've gotten from the state, I want to say, over $1 billion. No, not one single federal dollar has come to that Terrebonne Parish project, particularly because when they got the authorization from the feds back in the 90s, it was authorized as a $10 billion project, and that, I don't know, it screwed something up, but
Just curious.
they've taxed themselves 3 times.
Yeah.
But they partner with the state. They're building a $600 million floodgate and pumping station right now. But Terrebonne Parish got going. They started really rolling in the late 90s. They just started spending their own money. And so we're not waiting. We're going to start building levees. We're going to start doing projects. And also, when the money comes, because they're spending their money, they're sitting there with a half a dozen projects already permitted and designed, just waiting on funding. So when this first tranche of money, somebody was mentioning the Tri-Parish, the watershed initiative that the state is doing. It's a $1.4 billion they got from the 16 floods. This doesn't apply to Go Mesa dollar, but Terrebonne Parish, I know we were up there, Terrebonne Parish was up there with 5 or 6 shovel-ready projects saying, just fund these. So there's a benefit to doing that too.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Richard, could we have that sent electronically to Ms.
Yes,
Brenda? Okay.
yes.
And then
Sorry, guys.
distribute it to us.
That's conclude. I'm done with President's report.
Okay, moving on to consent agenda items, the minutes for the regular meeting of April 24, 2019. Summary number 69, introduced by the Sewer District Number 1, a resolution declaring a vacuum cleaner, vacuum, and a Ford F-250 crew cab trucks as surplus, and further authorizing disposal of said items in accordance with state and parish policy. All is requested by Iberia Parish Sewer District Number 1. Have a motion by Tommy Landry, a second by Ms. Broussard. Is there any of the 2 items that anyone would like to pull out of the consent agendas? Seeing none, roll call. That motion passes. Okay, moving on to ordinances introduced for public hearing and adoption. Summary number 4983, introduced by Paul G. Landry, District 7, an ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for General Parish, formerly known as General Alimony, which is levied on all taxable property in the rural areas of Iberia Parish only, at the adjusted rate of 4.03 mils for 2019. This would take 8 votes. First up is Ms. Broussard, second by Michael Landry. Ms. Broussard.
Yes, Mr. Landry. The chairman of the Millage Ad Hoc Committee is present, and I think he has some information he'd like to share with the council about the work that the committee's been doing. So I'd like to yield the floor to Mr. Schwing.
Okay. Mr. Swing, if you want to come on up.
We're going to put up a spreadsheet just to show you a little bit about what we've been doing. First of all, I want to thank you all for having me here this evening. When this Millage Ad Hoc Committee was advertised, you know, I applied. It's a good thing the Watneys were here earlier. My wife said I needed mental health help for doing that. But I wanted to learn, and it's been a great learning experience. But, you know, the council members that have served on this thing, they all know what's going on. And so I've learned from them. One thing I learned that I didn't know before I walked in tonight was I'm a sorry chairman. Mr. Landry pointed that out in the way he's handling this meeting. But we did take a look at all the various funds that are, where their revenue is coming from the millages that exist. And we tried to play with the numbers, not a whole lot of fluff to play with, obviously. And we put together some things to kind of get an easier way to view all of this stuff and look at the numbers and decide, you know, if we did something with this millage, how would it impact things. I think the biggest takeaway was, you know, the existing millages just really don't support the current budgeted expenditures. You know, we've got some fund balances in some of these things, and I'll point it out, that are carrying these budgets, and if we're not careful, they're going to go away real quick. You know, and y'all all know this. I'm preaching to the choir. My whole point in being involved with the thing was to hopefully see some, you know, some I guess involvement from the public so they could understand better. But we didn't get as much traction. We didn't get as much participation. We did have some groups come and speak with us, and so there was a little bit of interest. The numbers we're talking about don't come close to any of the numbers that Mike just talked about. I wish we had hundreds of millions we could be talking about. As a property owner in the parish, I'm not real wild about, millages and paying property taxes, but certainly I want to do my part to make this place as good as it can be. It's my home. It's important to me that we're as successful as we can be. So that led to my involvement. One of my fellow committee members is here this evening, Brock Pellerin. He got to learn a lot. He had some things to say, and I think through some collaboration, we came up with some good ideas. I'm never one to believe that I'm the smartest guy in the room. I certainly don't think I have every answer, and I don't think any one individual does. But I think when you have a lot of people together, you can find some ways to address certain things. So I'll come and just get on this spreadsheet and kind of show you what we were thinking and the way we came up with things. That yellow column that you see right there is what would happen if we maxed out the villages, right? What you can, that's the max millage. What you'll see is the revenues that it produces, and how it's either an increase or decrease over the previous year. You will note that that third item is there's no millage shown there. There's no millage shown there. That item is actually, let's go down and just get over it so you can see the column. That's the courthouse and jail, and I'm under the impression we're not going to be able to collect that anymore. So that goes away. What we did was we just went to the max and we said, okay, this is the revenue it's going to create. What I tried to do was to get a real picture of not just looking at the total revenues, but showing what the millage was and that we have other budgeted revenues in each one of these funds. Because, as you all know, we relied on for a long time on the royalty fund, right? That doesn't exist anymore. And so I wasn't sure if all these other revenues that we're looking at in that column Z, if they're going to be there forever. But I wanted to break them out so that everybody could see, hey, that we're not just depending on millages to make these budgets work. We've got other revenue items, and everybody needs to consider, are they always going to be there? So that's part of what I did when I broke this out. Also, I came up with this surplus deficit column if we maxed out the millages. And you can see, some of these funds running a pretty significant deficit. And that's dipping into the fund balance, right? And so the fund balance is illustrated, and to the right of that shows you how many years we've got remaining if we keep the budgets the way they are with those fund balances. Now, some of them look pretty good. We got about 21 years to go, or 19 years to go at the current rate on some of those budgets if we just continue to dip into those fund balances. But the big picture is, if you could take the money and move it everywhere you needed it, you got 5 years left with fund balances, if you could do that, okay? 5 years. And if you look at the bottom, row 22, all the way across, it shows what the current fund balances are total. That's $26 million. We're going to dip into the fund balances to the tune of about $5 million this year. And so in 1 year's time, you're going to reduce that the current total fund balances down to $21 million, and budgeted expenses are $24 million. You should always have at least 1 year of budgeted expenses in your fund balances. We're going to be below that at the end of 2019 if things continue and look the way they are. I got footnotes under there. I'm not going to go into each one. On the right, there's a footnote. The library, what I did was I took out this year's, if you'll notice, they're running a deficit of $2.9 million estimated in 19, but $2.2 million of that is to construct two new libraries, right? And so with the construction of those new libraries not going to be happening every year, I backed those out when I looked at how it's going to impact their fund balance going forward. And I also, just wanted to make sure everybody understood that if you don't bump the library's millage all the way up to the, the max, which is 6, you're not going to cover their deficit this year, but their deficit is inflated because of the construction of those libraries. Look, it's not rocket science. I mean, the numbers are there for everybody to see. I just thought I'd point that out. And this came about as, again, a collaboration of the ad hoc committee, all the members, both the council members that serve on it and the, just private individuals who wanted to come and learn something, maybe try to have an impact. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Let's see, have Ms. Broussard, any other questions?
No.
Okay. Michael Landry.
I'm good. I served on that committee and I know what we went through, so I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Gashasan.
Mr. Schwing, thank you very much for being here and taking the time that you do. I know you're a busy guy. I think when you look at the Public Building Maintenance Fund, I mean, we didn't brush a whole lot on that. This looks like over $4.3 million in expenses. Could we consider maybe half of that one-time money usage in regards to Dutch Gosnell? Because I think you're going to blow about how much did we dedicate for Dutch Gosnell renovations this year? 1.5? 1.4, okay. And plus other expenses. We've had some growth in certain things, and when you look at the drainage, how much we've done in drainage. So a lot of those expenses are going up because it's, the more we're doing, the more maintenance it takes on the equipment, how many people we have in that department from payroll in 2016 to now. So a lot of it is generalized expenses that we are doing work. I mean, this administration has been aggressive when it's come to drainage. Would you agree, Larry? So, I mean, a lot of the issues that we are having, I know we're going to have to go up on a sinking fund, but eventually that'll pay itself off and release 0.25, which is a very small portion if you look. But a lot of what we have is expenses problems. We need to go back in, and that's some of the things we have talked about in the budget, that we do have expenditures are up in certain funds across the board. I'm looking at one of the fund balances, 21 years. When we took office, we started, our sales taxes were, in the drain. Paul, would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And today, we had maybe a $700,000 deficit we were running in the garbage fund, correct, Kim, at one time? Well, you look at the taxes since January, and we're up nearly $300,000 in that garbage fund, additional dollars. So things are improving, and I don't want to take away from all the hard work you guys did, but I want to tell you that you can go out in this parish right now and see activity happening in the parish. Businesses are reinvesting in the parishes. But to say the fact that we're going to max out the Avalorm, just let that sit there and just kind of smother for a second. Next year, when we say we're going to need more money, then what happens then? Because there's no more money to gain other than the reassessment that the state's going to bring next year. Okay? So my thing is most importantly, and I'm going to let you finish your presentation, I think a lot of it has to do with we have to look at expenses that the parish is occurring. I mean, we bought a house right behind us that we knocked down for a parking lot. Those are certain things in the general, in the public building and maintenance that we wouldn't have had to absorb but one-time deals. Dutch Gosnell, there's others, courthouse renovations have been a big tone, courthouse security. So these are big expenses that you're seeing in the public building and maintenance. And I know there's certain other ones, but I just wanted to make that as a point that why you're seeing a $4 million. Because when I took office, or when we took office, I think that fund balance was running $1.5 million in expenses. So anyways, I apologize. Go ahead.
Well, no, You're right about one-time expenditures. The only thing I think one thing that I learned throughout this process is, when's the last time there was a millage adjustment?
Correct.
And I mean, when was the last time?
I can't tell you.
And I know this. If let's say it was 10 years ago, go try to price anything that you bought 10 years ago and see if it costs the same or if it costs more now. I know this, millages in our neighboring parishes, sales taxes in our neighboring parishes are higher. People are flocking there for the things that they're getting with the money that's being spent there. I just, and this is just me, and I'm just a guy, okay, and I don't have to run for office, so I don't have anybody to answer to, okay? But I'm just telling you, I mean, we're losing people, and that's the biggest thing to me. You know, I want my kids to be able to stay here, and when all their friends are right down the road, guess where they want to be? Right down the road with them, and they're willing to pay higher taxes to get the things that we're trying to create with these expenses that you see up there. We're not going to have, we're not going to have the good roads. We're not going to have, all the things that they can get right down the road, but they're willing to pay for it. And I think that's what we got to, and I'm not saying, just go hog wild with taxes. I'm just saying we got to look at what's the return on investment for us, anteing up a little bit. I mean, we're talking 0.15 more in millages in this right-hand column as compared to what was being collected last year. On a $200,000 house, I think the number was like, I don't know, $12 a year, something like that. And guess what? I own a couple houses worth more than $200,000. I'm going to be paying my fair share. So I'm not up here trying to say, hey, let's do this so everybody else pays, but not me. I mean, I'm willing, but that's, look, you guys are the ones that have to make the tough decisions. I'm just showing you the numbers.
Mr. Garcia?
Well, I just to make another point, just a week ago, the school board, the biggest taxing body in this parish, they have the same issues that we have, income problems and expenses, but they decided to eat the bullet because they see the same things that we do. We see some improvement in our businesses. We always talk about the homeowners, but what about the businesses? Because they pay ad valorem. So that you're right, it may be $2 for the house, but what does it cost on that Thomas Tools that has $20 million in inventory sitting on the ground? Those type of people they can pick up that inventory tomorrow and move it. And then guess what? At the end of the day, yeah, you maxed out the millages, but next year what do you have? How can you assess them? Because they're not here to be assessable. So my issue is just consider the fact that the school board seen the issues that people are still struggling out there. We know that eventually we're going to have to eat the bullet, but it doesn't have to be this year. We do have a few more years in certain fund balances, depending on if expenses stay high, and that's dependent on this council and administration. I'm just asking you to consider it. I'm wearing a button tonight that says no more taxes because there's a lot of people that feel out there that they just don't have the extra money to give right now. And I think we can bite the bullet tonight to help our businesses that are struggling and help the people in this parish that are struggling. Now, Mr. Swing, you out there, you see the insurance business. People are having to make a decision between whether they're going to pay their medical bills or they're going to pay the homeowners insurance. And there's people out there that literally are suffering. Just keep that in mind, and I respect everybody's decision. And again, I want to thank you again and all the millage committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, next up, Michael Landry.
I'm listening to Warren, and I sat on this committee. I think Berwick last week said it best. When is the time where we go invest in ourselves? We go invest in our community, and I think this is an investment. We look at people moving to Lafayette paying much more taxes, much more millages. They can't afford it in New Iberia, but they can afford it over there. It's time we need to stand up and we need to figure this out, and we need to invest in our community. Our roads are bad. We doing the best we could with drainage, and it's time that we need to stand up and think that we need to do it. And that's all I got to say.
Okay, next up, Mr. Dugas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Armin, I served on that committee with you, and you did an outstanding job. I compliment you on the way you handled the meetings, and you did a good job. I listened to you tonight, and I'm looking at a millage neutral situation will generate $285,000 more revenue than they did last year for the same millages. We talk about people leaving the parish. If we had those people back, then they would be contributing at that millage rate. So our task is not to raise the taxes. Our task is to keep people from leaving and have more people pay this millage than we have now. I mean, my vote would be to be millage neutral, and it's going to generate $285,000, right at $286,000 more a year. And rather than let the project dictate the revenue, let the revenue dictate what we can do. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Tommy Landry.
Norman, I want to thank you for what you've done because I know it wasn't easy. I've been here a long time. There's a subdivision in Lafayette that I visited a while back. There are 10 New Iberia families that have moved there. There's not a house there that's under $500,000. And that's in that one subdivision in Youngsville, Broussard area. You know, we're losing people. We need money to develop infrastructure. There's no doubt. I know it's a tough call for some of you guys who are conservative from a taxing standpoint, but I'm going to support this issue, and we need to do something to stop this outflow of individuals out of this community.
Okay, next up, Ms. Broussard.
Armin, I know you've dove into our budget book head first, and the amount of work that you put into this is amazing. Thank you for breaking it down like that to where we can all see it, the public can see it. I think that was one of the big goals of the millage committee, is for us to figure this out and educate the people on it. You know, I think everybody has said it all. They are moving to higher taxes. It's because they want that quality of life. If they're willing to pay for it, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. There's all the talks here. They're willing to pay for it, and I think if we can start giving them that quality of life, they're going to happily invest in Iberia Parish. And so we need to step up our game on that end. Millage Committee's not finished. This is just the first phase of what we're doing to help the council decide how we're assessing the millages for this year. But we still have a lot of work left to do on trying to figure out what are we going to recommend that this council bring to the voters as far as reallocating millages across the board, and or there are other funds that we need to do, or other things that we need to levy, and how these adjustments will take place. So looking forward to many more meetings with you, Armin.
Great. Look, I would like to say two more things, and then I'm gonna give up my microphone and shut this down. You know, a couple of things. First thing, I agree with Warren about, you know, when times are tough. But I want to tell you, I think what the biggest, reason for opposition to taxes has been, in the past, a certain level of distrust of government. And I'm going to tell you something. This administration and this council ain't that old branch of government that people didn't trust. You guys are the leaders, and you guys go out and show, look at the work that's being done. I mean, this kind of work, you talk about the expense. Yeah, look at the work that's being done, and it's because y'all approved it and they went and got it done. So, you know, I don't mind paying when I'm getting something for it. If you'd have come to me and asked me for more money 10 years ago, I might have said, oh, no, man. What's going on down there? Today, I'm happy to pay it because y'all are making sure it's being spent properly, and they're making sure it's being done right. The second thing is, just to touch on the Iberia Parish School Board and them not going up on their millages. Man, look, when I read that, the first thing I thought was, they're asking the voters to renew it. We ain't going to ask them for more right now. Let's get them to renew it, okay? That's me. I think, yeah, if they really thought they could get it because they need it, they would ask for it. And this is something, you know, I just got the number. I was wrong. The $200,000 house, 0.15 millage is not going to make it go up $12 a year. It's going to go up $1.87. You know, when you talk about, if you look at what the 0.20 millage generates in income on, is that 605 million taxable value? Let's say somebody in the parish owns a tenth of that, 60 million. They're going to see their taxes go up $12,000. If they own 60 million, I mean, I'm kind of close to that, but not. I mean, let's be real. We're not talking a lot of money for any individuals or business. I mean, even you take Halliburton, who's probably got one of the biggest in his parish. They're not going to be hurting for what we're going to be asking for them, you know, for 1.15 of a mil. So that's me. Thank y'all very much. I appreciate y'all.
Thanks,
Ms. Norman, I'll be notifying you about the next ad hoc committee we have. It'll be a straw vote. Next up is Mr. Napier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Surely, I know I'm not the only one that's, well, maybe I am. It seems like most of y'all have committed to maxing out, and I guess we'll find out on the vote. So just looking at everything, if we take out the courthouse and jail, which is a .76, and distribute that amongst some of the other millages, except the library staying at 3.5, it brings us real close to maxing out everything. And just if we wanted to stay neutral, if I did my calculations right, and we took public building and maintenance, which is has a pretty good fund balance, that one would go up .01, and that's me personally. That's what I'm struggling with. Whether if we max out everything except the library, correct me if I'm wrong, y'all. We actually go up .15, which I know in the scheme of things isn't a whole lot. But if we wanted to prove to our constituents at least some of us are conservative to a point where we're gonna hold steady and we wanna stay millage neutral. That's, and I'm just for consideration, to me, that would be the fund where we would say we're not gonna go to the 476. We could go to the 4.65. I think my numbers are right. And that's where I'm considering, and we'll see how the vote goes. I don't want to raise any taxes, but in the same sense, I realize, I really do. I've talked to Mr. Richard about this, that if we're gonna give the people of the parish what they deserve, it takes money, and money comes from taxes. So I guess we have some considering to do, but that's where I'm at. So, thank you. One question. So when we're gonna go to vote, so let's just take the first one. You have the first vote, and then if you want to go to the max, you're gonna vote no for the first one. And
No.
Could you explain how that's gonna work, please?
So, 4983 for the general, to move it to 4.03. We'll vote on that. It'll take 8 votes. But if we decide we want to go up to the adjusted max of 4.12, we'll have a second vote on that, and it'll take 10 votes on that.
So you could actually vote yes for both of them?
That's correct.
Okay, all
That's
right.
correct.
Okay, that's, I just want to make sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. We mentioned a company in town that has a big inventory, and that, if we go up a little bit, that they would possibly move. I can't see them leaving Iberia at 70 mills to St. Martin at 101, Lafayette at 84, St. Mary at 88. Their 4 choices would be Blackman, St. Landry, Point Coupé, or East Feliciana. And I just don't see you're going to have any of that move like that. Sales tax is up, and it's a good thing. And I'm glad to see garbage is up, 300,000. But off of 700,000, we're still 400,000 short. So instead of 3 years of us running out of money for the garbage, we might go up to 5 years now. It's probably one of the reasons the administration can't come up with a landfill place and things like that, because we don't have it. And that's why we have all these people putting mattresses and crawfish and everything out in the thing. So if all these funds did have flowing money, we would have more of a prettier parish. And just for some of the, we're going to go up over here, I just feel it's a lot of crying wolf, that we got to worry about all this. I mean, Armin shot you some numbers, and the average person, it's not going to go up that much. And I think the best thing to do is, is to work on them, so I would be in support of that we, try to bring in as much revenue as we can, get it to the administration, and let's turn this parish around. And now we have Mr.
Yeah.
Gusher.
Just to say, Paul, when you said that company wouldn't move, I believe you heard it saying from the tax assessor's office. I believe he lost $20+ million in the tax roll last year, did he? So don't say that they're not going to leave, because they will leave. And they have proven to leave before. And I know we have to make wise decisions on what we're going to do tonight. And I don't fault anybody for raising taxes. I mean, you have your own, that's your own choice. But I think at the end of the day, to continue to say that we need to invest in our parish, there's a lot of people that have invested in this parish. We're maxing the millages out. Let that sink one more time. We're maxing the millages out, and we're not offering any additional services that we've offered over the years. I know things do creep up, but you know, when's the last time your property taxes went down? They've only increased. At least mine haven't. In the last 4 years, it hasn't.
It was about 12 years ago that they dropped about 5 or 6 mills. So we're arguing on a percentage of a mill. And actually, you know, we got jammed about 10, 12, I don't know if Larry can say, but anyway, 10, 12 years ago, on the record, we dropped about 5 or 6 mills. So that's why we're in the predicament we are. And I don't think we would have went up to number 6 on the 2018 chart that we want to be so proud of, being the cheapest on taxes. That's just my personal opinion.
I just, you know, like I said, Paul, me and you were friends. We're all friends up here, and at the end of the day, your decision has to be made.
Sure.
But I'm just telling you, at the end of the day, people do not want to pay more taxes. And Orman's right. This council has changed. The parish president has changed. Things have changed. But yet, we're still spending money we don't have to spend.
And I have said I will sponsor any legislation that y'all want to cut fat out the budget. But we're at the bone already. And, you know, the next
I
thing...
don't think we're at the bone. We're building a new building. We're renovating a new building. That's $2 million we had there that we wouldn't have to even consider. But look, we'll leave that for another day. I'm good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further discussions, Ms. Broussard, you had it. We'll be voting on 4983 at the 403 Mills. Roll call. Joe. Okay, that motion passes. Okay, summary number 4984, introduced by Paul G. Landry, an ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage for general parish, formerly known as general alimony, which is levied at all taxable property in the rural areas of the parish only at the adjusted rate of 4.03 mills, and authorizing an increase of said rate to 4.12 mills to be levied for 2019. This is a roll forward. It'll take 10 votes. Note, this is the recommendation of the Millage Ad Hoc Committee and the Executive Committee. I have a motion by Michael Landry, a second by Lloyd Brown. Michael Landry?
Waive.
Mr. Brown?
Waive.
No further discussion. Roll call. That motion passes. Summary number 4985, introduced by Paul G. Landry, an ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for the exempted municipalities, formerly known as criminal tax, which is levied on all taxable property in the municipalities only at the adjusted rate of 2.01 mills for 2019. This will take 8 votes. Note, this millage rate cannot be more than half of the general parish millage rate. I have a motion by Mr. Brown, a second by Mr. Olivier. Mr. Brown? Mr. Olivier, no further discussion. Roll call. That motion passes. Summary number 4986, introduced by Paul G. Landry, an ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage which for the exempted municipalities, formerly known as the criminal tax, which is levied on all taxable property in the municipalities only at the adjusted rate of 2.01 mills, and authorizing an increase of said rate to 2.06 mills to be levied for 2019. This is a roll forward. 10 votes are needed. Note the recommendation for the Millage Ad Hoc Committee and the Executive Committee. I have a motion by Mr. Brown, a second by Mr. Olivier. Mr. Brown? Mr. Olivier? No further discussion. Roll call. That motion passes. Summary number 4987, introduced by Paul G. Landry, an ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for the courthouse and jail maintenance, which is levied on all taxable property in the municipalities only at the adjusted rate of 0.76 mills for 2019. This will take 8 votes. Note the recommendation by the Millage Ad Hoc Committee, and the Executive Committee is not to levy this millage. I have a motion by Mr. Olivier, a second by Michael Landry. Mr. Olivier.
Move pass.
Okay, Mr. Dugan.
Yeah, point of clarification on this one, we're talking about the millage that has been deleted, the courthouse and jail millage? There is no
This-
millage, right?
Well, what the recommendation is that we would go ahead and change this to the, to 0 from .76. So somebody would have to make a motion for that. Yes, we need a substitute, if that's your recommendation. Michael Landry?
I make up substitute that we eliminate this millage.
Would not be eliminated, it would be that we would not levy.
Right.
We will
Right.
not levy, we will not levy
Yep.
this millage,
We
move
would
it
go
to
from
0.
0.76 to
And I'll second it.
0.0. Okay.
I'll second it.
Let's see, Mr. Tronho, you're up. I'm going to hold his substitute. You good? Okay.
I'm good, but I'll support
Tommy
the
Landry?
second.
Okay, so I have a motion. Let's see, the second was by Mr. Olivier. Mr. Olivier, you good with that? Okay, we have a substitute motion on the floor to adjust the courthouse and jail from .76 to .0. No further discussion. Roll call. That motion passes. Summary number 4988, introduced by Paul G. Landry, District 7, an ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage of the courthouse and jail maintenance, which is levied on all taxable property in the municipalities only at the adjusted rate of .76 mils, and authorizing an increase of said rate to .80 mils to be levied for 2019. This would be a roll forward to take 10 votes. Note the recommendation by the Millage and Ad Hoc Committee and the Executive Committee is to not levy this millage. So I need a motion and a second. I have a motion by Mr. Goshasan, a second by Ms. Broussard. Mr. Goshasan?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend summary number 4988 to 4.61 to stay millage neutral, please. Oh, is this the same? It's the second? Oh, I'm sorry. Move to delete. I jumped ahead. I apologize, Mr. Chairman.
That's good.
Move to
Okay.
delete.
So, okay, no further
No,
discussion?
I'm good.
Ms.
Thank you.
Broussard?
No discussion.
Mr. Tommy Landry? Okay, so I have a substitute motion by Mr. Goshasan.
Yes, sir.
To delete this item. I need a
Jump to
second.
fifth.
Ms. Broussard has a second. No further discussion. Roll call. Okay, that motion passes on the deletion. Okay, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to jump to 4991. Summary number 4991, introduced by Paul G. Landry, District 7, an ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for the public health unit, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at the adjusted rate of 2.06 mils for 2019. This will take 8 votes. I have a motion by Ms. Broussard, a second by Michael Landry. Ms. Broussard?
Wait.
Michael Landry? No further discussion. Roll call.
91,
Mr. Dugan? Mr. Brown?
91.
We're actually,
Right.
we're on 4991. Okay, just turn it off. Okay, Mr. Dugan? We're in 4991, which is the public health unit at 2.06. Right. That's going to be the controversial ones. We'll get it over. That motion passes. Summary number 4992, introduced by Paul G. Landry, an ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage for the public health unit, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at the adjusted rate of 2.06 mils, and authorizing an increase for said rate at 2.11 mils to be levied for 2019. This is a roll forward. It'll take 10 votes. Note, this is the recommendation by the Millage Ad Hoc Committee and the Executive Committee. I have a motion by Michael Landry and a second by Mr. Eugene Olivier. Michael Landry. Mr. Olivier. Tommy Landry. No further discussion. Roll call. And that motion passes. Summary number 4993, introduced by Paul G. Landry, an ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for drainage facilities which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at an adjusted rate of 3.9 mils for 2019. This will take 8 votes. I have a motion by Ms. Broussard, a second by Michael Landry. Ms. Broussard. Michael Landry. No further discussion. Roll call. Mr. Dugan. Okay, that motion passes. Summary number 4994, introduced by Paul G. Landry, an ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage for drainage facilities, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at an adjusted rate of 3.9 mils and authorizing an increase of said rate to 4.0 mils to be levied for 2019. This is a roll forward. It will take 10 votes. Note the recommendation by the Millage Ad Hoc Committee and the Executive Committee. I have a motion by Mr. Napier, a second by Mr. Brown. Mr. Napier.
Good.
Mr. Brown? No further discussion. Roll call. And motion passes. Summary number 4995, introduced by Paul G. Landry, an ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for the public library system, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at the adjusted rate of 5.85 mils for 2019. It will take 8 votes. Note the recommendation by the Millage Ad Hoc Committee and the Executive Committee is 3.5 mils. I have a motion by Mr. Brown. I have a second by Mr. Traum. Mr. Brown. Ms. Traum. Mr. Traum. Ms. Broussard.
I'd like to do a substitute motion to change the rate to 3.5 mils.
Okay, so at this point, I have a substitute motion on the floor to adjust the rates from 5.85 to 3.5. I have a second by Tommy Landry. Any further discussion?
We got a second.
No second. Roll call. 3.5. And motion passes. Summary number 4996, introduced by Paul G. Landry, an ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage for public library system, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at the adjusted rate of 5.85 mils and authorizing an increase of said rate to 6.0 mils to be levied for 2019. This is a roll forward. It will take 10 votes. Note the recommendation by the Millage Ad Hoc Committee and the Executive Committee is 3.5 mils. I have a motion by Michael Landry, a second by Ms. Broussard. Michael Landry. We have a motion, okay, and the second, and then Tommy Landry. Any discussion? Okay, we have a substitute motion on the floor for 4996 to be deleted. No further discussion. Roll call. Okay, that motion passes. It was deleted. Okay, summary number 4997, introduced by Paul G. Landry, an ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for the public library system, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at the rate of 0.25 mils for 2019. Increased, it takes 8 votes and bonds. Note the recommendation by the Ad Hoc Committee and the Executive Board. I have a motion by Mr. Brown, a second by Michael Landry. Mr. Brown? Michael Landry. No further discussion. Roll call. And that motion passes. At this time, we'll go back to the 4989, which is public buildings. Summary number 4989, introduced by Paul G. Landry, an ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for the public buildings maintenance, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at the adjusted rate of 4.64 mils for 2019. This will take 8 votes. I have a motion by Mr. Gashassan, a second by Tommy Landry. Mr. Gashassan.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend the language to include 4.61 instead of 4.64, stay millage neutral.
Okay, I'm going to hold that substitute to go on to Michael Landry. Tommy Landry, I'm sorry, hold up, Tommy Landry.
I'm not gonna support the second.
Okay. Okay, so the second is not going to support that, but I have another person, Mr. Dugan.
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Okay, so at this point, we have a substitute on the floor that we would,
I'm fine with you.
Okay. okay, no, I had some more pop up. Okay, Mr. Napier.
So I just want to make, I know Warren said 4.61. Did we do the math? Is that if 4.61 will get us to 2065? You did the math, can I trust you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's all I want to make sure, that 4.61 is the millage neutral on that. So that would be,
It'd be like 13 cents for people with a $200,000 house.
no, I don't have that type of house, man. I live in a little shotgun shack in Generat, man. But I got people I represent, so that's what.
They're below the homestead exemption, so don't worry about it.
Not all of them.
Okay, what we do have on the floor now for 4989 is a substitute motion to reduce the public building from 4.64 to 4.61. No further discussion, roll call on that substitute. Wait. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that motion fails. Okay, so now we're back to original 4989. And this will be to have the public building maintenance stay at 4.64. Mr. Gashasan?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to state for the record, I'll be in opposition to both of them. And God bless the people of this parish. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, next up, Tommy Landry.
I'll wait.
You waive. No further discussion. We're voting. Yep, we're back to the original 4989 at 4.64. Roll call. Okay, that motion passes. Okay, now we're on 4990. Summary number 4990, introduced by Paul G. Landry, an ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage for public buildings maintenance, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at the adjusted rate of 4.64 mils, and authorizing an increase of said rate to 4.76 mils to be levied for 2019. This is a roll forward. It'll take 10 votes. Note the recommendation by the Millage Ad Hoc Committee and the Executive Committee. I have a motion by Michael Landry, a second by Tommy Landry. Michael Landry.
I waive.
You waive. Tommy Landry. Mr. Gashasan.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make an amendment to the language to adjust the millage to 4.61, please. That would be millage neutral, 4.61.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Gash, a second on substitute on the floor by Mr. Gashasan, and a second by Mr. Dugas to reduce it from 4.76 to 4.61.
4.61, I'm sorry.
4.61. Okay, so we're voting on the substitute for 4990. Roll
Correct.
call. I don't know which way I voted. Tommy, you're the last one. So the substitute motion has failed. So we're back down to the original of 4990 for 4.76. 4.76. We're on 4990, public buildings, 4.76. Roll forward vote, that would take 10 votes. No discussion. 1 second, and we roll call. Tommy and Joel. Mr. Dugan? Morty? Okay, that motion passes. Okay, now we go on down to item number 4998.
Get some stuff done.
get some
An
stuff
ordinance
done.
approving a conditional use permit to allow an expansion of an existing cell tower on A-1 agricultural zoning district located at 819 Emile Verret Road, located in District 6. All is reviewed and recommended by the Iberia Parish Zoning Commission. I have a motion by Mr. Olivier and a second by Michael Landry. Mr. Olivier.
Pass.
Michael Landry. No further discussion. Roll call. That motion passes. Resolutions introduced for public hearing and adoption. Summary number 48, introduced by the clerk of the council, a resolution appointing Mr. Clarence and Baradeau of Generette Veterans Memorial Building Number 2 Board to a 5-year term to fill a vacancy created by the expiration of term of Mr. Clarence and Baradeau, whose term expires May 6, 2019. I have a motion by Mr. Brown, a second by Michael Landry. Mr. Brown. Okay, so you're looking for a deletion? Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Brown to delete Michael Landry. Okay, no further discussion. We're voting on a deletion for 48. Roll call. Okay, the deletion passes. Summary number 17, introduced by the clerk of the council, a resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the parish of Iberia, state of Louisiana, to replace the existing Iberia Parish Home Rule Charter with a revised version containing changes as recommended by the Iberia Parish Home Rule Charter Ad Hoc Committee and the Iberia Parish Council's Executive Committee, making application to the State Board Commission and connecting therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Have a motion by Ms. Broussard, a second by Mr. Olivier. Ms. Broussard.
I'd like to yield to Jason.
Okay, Jason, just state your name and...
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason Akers with Foley and Udell, bond counsel for the parish. This is one of the times where we actually kind of nail it with the title of the resolution because, as you recall, at your last meeting, you adopted an ordinance that authorized or asked the voters to approve a complete replacement of the Iberia Parish Home Rule Charter with a revised version approved by ordinance. This provides the election for that replacement. This will be held on October 12th. That's the election date. You heard the Registrar of Voters talk about everything that was on that ballot. This will be on that ballot as well. So it is a regular election date. It's called a special election in the title because it's not a regularly occurring election, meaning every 4 years, but no difference in that. It's on a regular election date, October 12th. With your approval tonight, this will go to the State Bond Commission, Secretary of State, for approval to hold the election. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about it.
Okay, Ms. Broussard?
Waive.
Mr. Olivier? Mr. Jason, it looks like we have no further questions.
Thank you.
Okay, no further discussion. Summary number 70, roll call. That motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Summary number 71, introduced by the Economic Development District Number 1, a resolution amending the 2019 Economic Development District Number 1 fund budget in an amount of $75,000 for an amendment to the agreement for the Louisiana 675 roundabout project to provide for changes in survey approval, revived pavement typical section, revised drainage calculations, plan in hand meeting, response to comments and plan updates, utility survey and coordination, design waivers and design exceptions, project management and coordination, schedule update to include ARA project timeline, preparation of response to plan in hand meeting with preferences in lieu of making changes, and update to all plan changes from the plan in hand meeting, and all to be funded from the fund balance previous year's line item. I have a motion by Tommy Landry, a second by Ms. Broussard. Tommy Landry?
All I can say is about time.
I think that's a yes. Ms. Broussard?
Waive.
Okay. Michael Landry? Mr. Dugan?
Yeah, Mr. President, this kind of resembles change orders. Why are we going through all it's just more money after the fact. I know that, but it kind of resembles one. It's money after, I mean, the original plan, this is in addition to the original plan?
Change order is not, you can call it a change order, but the job hasn't even started yet.
Well, and I understand that, so why wouldn't this figured in the original budget?
Reality, Joel, this should have been built in 2015.
Right, your project is behind 4 years.
So every year DOT changes rules that any delay comes up. So we have to follow whatever they want to do. So when they make changes like that, we've got to change the engineering or make adjustments as we go. So it comes out of our pocket. That's basically the way it works.
And if by chance we don't do this project and we wait another 4 years, it's
I'm
going to
not
increase
against-
again.
I'm not against doing the project,
Right.
but I'm against.
I'm just saying, I'm just telling you.
I don't want the contractor to keep submitting bills.
This is not a contractor, we've never bid it. This is the
Well,
Department of Transportation.
It's engineering.
No,
the
it's the
engineering
Department of
part.
Transportation.
No, the money goes to the engineer.
The money goes to the engineer, but it's the requirements from the Department of Transportation.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's see.
It was a good question.
No further discussion. We're voting on summary number 71. Roll call. And motion passes. I'm going to ask for a roll call for adjournment, and we're going to go straight into finance. I have a motion by Mr. Brown. Roll call. That's a ordinance for next time. Mr. Brown, Michael Landry, Tommy Pollard, Mr. Napier, Mr. Francis, Mr. Trahan, Mr. Montaran. Voting on adjournment. Okay, we've adjourned.